your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the GSPN Friday EPL show, your weekend starter for all things Premier League. My name's Kate. It is Friday, September the 5th, and while we're still stuck in the international break with no domestic fixtures, boring I know, isn't it? The Premier League has still delivered massive headlines. The biggest one, arguably, Daniel Levy stepping down at Spurs after nearly 25 years at the helm. That's a generational power shift, my friends. We're going to dive deep into what that means for Spurs' identity, their strategy, and their fans. We're also going to break down Liverpool's record-breaking summer. Alexander Isak and Florian Wirtz, now part of the Salah system, and of course a dedicated Leeds section, where the big story isn't results on the pitch, but a fan base basically that's absolutely raging, quite rightly in my opinion, about a flat transfer window. And later a quick transfer buzz roundup to close things out. Let's go. So normally this is a bit where we'd grade my fixture forecast, but with the break on, let's just reset the league table as it stands after match week 3, shall we? Liverpool, top of the league, maximum points, looking pretty sharp, if I may say so. And then, of course, we've got Chelsea right behind them in second. And then Arsenal in third, Spurs sitting quite comfortably in fourth and now entering the post-Levy era. What's that going to bring? Down the table, Man United in ninth on 4 points. No top four narrative just yet, just a challenge of kind of climbing back into the European conversation. Are they going to do it? And of course, Leeds on the same points tally, tucked safely mid-table for now. As long as it stays that way, I'll be quite happy. That's the lay of the land as we head through the international break. So Daniel Levy has stepped down as executive chairman of Spurs after nearly 25 years. The longest serving Premier League chairman is gone from the day-to-day role, though he's still going to remain as an owner via Bioniq. Is it Bioniq or ENIC? Tell me, I want to know. I need schooling in that, right? Spurs confirmed that Peter Carrington, he's going to become non-executive chairman, with Vinay Venkatesham. Did I spell that? Did I pronounce that right? Yes, that's Arsenal's former CEO, by the way. He's going to step in as chief exec, and Thomas Frank already in as head coach since the summer. Now, Levy's legacy, right, is a bit of a split, isn't it? Straight down the middle. On the one hand, a world-class stadium, a state-of-the-art training ground, global commercial growth, and Spurs transformed into pretty much, I think it's fair to say, a financial heavyweight. On the other hand, though, right, you've got one League Cup trophy in 2008, last season's Europa League win in Bilbao, and 2 decades of nearly moments, right, in the Premier League and Champions League. For all the cash, the silverware tally is looking pretty grim, isn't it? For fans, of course, it's complicated. Some are going to remember Levy as the architect who put Spurs on the map commercially. Others will never forgive him for the endless managerial changes and transfer windows where ambition, I think it's fair to say, seemed pretty half-hearted. Jamie O'Hara, the ex-Spurs midfielder, said this week that 90 to 95% of fans will be glad to see him go. And that's kind of the vibe I've got from speaking to not fellow Spurs fans, but, Spurs fans, basically. So what actually changes, right, with him going? Well, first of all, the decision-making, because, Levy was the definition of hands-on, transfers, contracts, everything. And now Spurs are going to kind of move to a more modern split. Owners oversee, the CEO executes, and the head coach coaches. Venkatesham's Arsenal background means he kind of knows both the commercial side and the footballing side. And Thomas Frank's tactical clarity and development pedigree, and Spurs are kind of betting on joined-up thinking instead of one man pulling the strings, which is what it has been so far. Second, recruitment. All right. This summer was already a step in, towards cohesion, basically. We've got Xavi Simons and Kudus coming in, young, dynamic, versatile talent, not kind of scattergun buys, but players with resale value and clear tactical fits. That kind of feels like the template moving forward. A bit more coherence, right? And third, expectations. The Levy era has basically left Spurs with infrastructure to rival anyone. That stadium is state of the art, isn't it? I mean, as a Leeds fan, when you look at Ellen Road by comparison, well, you can't compare. But a fan base hungry for football to match the stadium. That's all they want. If Frank delivers a stable midfield, an identity and possession and top six consistency, well, the Levy out chorus is going to fade, is it? If not, Spurs risk another cycle of false dawns, which I hope they don't have, to be honest. Bottom line, for me, Levy's exit is hugely symbolic, but, the real test is whether this new structure turns a slick organisational chart into points, prizes and pride. So what about Liverpool then, right? Liverpool didn't just spend big, they rewrote their attack. First came Florian Wirtz from Leverkusen for around 160 million. Then Alexander Isak arrived from Newcastle. We all knew he would, didn't we? For 125 million quid. That is a British record. Together, that is nearly $250 million on two players. And get this, about 446 million across the summer, right? So let's look at what they bring. Isak, of course, technical finishing, link-up play, clever movement off the left channel. Wirtz is a creator, right? A half-space dribbler and kind of a master of the final pass. And Salah's gravity, of course. And you've kind of suddenly got this triangle where any of these three can create or finish. It's so exciting. And what about those who left, the departures? Well, Luis Diaz went to Bayern, Darwin Nunez to Al Hilal. Liverpool lose chaos, right? But they kind of gain control. Fewer coin flip moments, I'd say, a more structured chance creation. The ceiling is a side that can dictate tempo in big matches instead of needing a frantic comeback, basically. But, chemistry takes time. As we all know, Isak's saga meant a disrupted preseason. Wirtz is new to this league, isn't he? And Salah is still obviously the heartbeat of the team. If the early weeks feel a bit clunky, patience is going to be the key. So don't get too despondent. Two subplots, as I see it. Money, right? Liverpool broke records, but they did it without breaching PSR, a sign that they're building sustainability, basically. And culture, when a fan account on X framed the Wirtz Isak arrival as the biggest upgrade ever over Diaz and Nunez, Salah publicly shot it down. He reminded everybody basically to respect past players while welcoming in the new ones. That is leadership, and that is exactly the tone that Arne Slot will want in the dressing room. On the pitch, Isak's pressing intelligence should let Liverpool's midfield sit a yard or two higher, while Wirtz needs a ball winner basically covering his license to kind of roam around. Done right, this window fixes Liverpool's Achilles heel, consistency and control in tight games, although they are still a bit dodgy at the back, I've noticed. But anyway, done wrong, it risks months of tactical tinkering, right, which could basically be their undoing. Dare I say that? I don't see it myself, but anyway. But make no mistake, this is a title race play. Are they going to do it for a second time? Are they? Who knows? Okay, we can't go any further without talking about the one and the only Leeds United. And forget tactics for a second, right? The story here, guys, is rage. Rage and fury, right? Leeds spent just over 103 million quid this summer. Sounds decent, doesn't it? Until you realise that newly promoted Sunderland dropped about 141 million, outspending Leeds by nearly 40 million. That stings. especially when you think that Daniel Farke was promised quality once we got back into the Premier League. What did they get for their money? Jack Harrison back again after a loan at Everton. I mean, it pains me to even say this. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who fans are already branding another Everton cast-off. They are Everton's cast-offs, right? One furious supporter on X posted, I noted this week. So this is the ambition, recycling Goodison's injury list. And that person was right, all right? It's a nightmare. Leeds will be lucky to stay up this season. Off the back of that awful transfer window. You know, deadline day didn't calm it either. The club's socials were bombarded with replies like pathetic, same old Leeds, no ambition. Another fan summed it up perfectly. Leeds definitely underwhelming so far in the transfer window. Step it up. But they didn't. It was pathetic. It was woeful. It was embarrassing. Meanwhile, Sunderland are signing players in the 20 to 30 million quid bracket, and Leeds look basically like they're bargain hunting at the car boot. You know, that's why the mood's so sour. It's not about the 4 points on the board. It's about the ambition. It's about the ambition. You know, fans feel the board are trying to survive on the cheap, you know, while rivals are gearing up for war. And, you know, that should be the mindset when you enter the Premier League, a league that we're supposed to be in. You gear up for war. You know, you don't shop around in the bargain basement. You know, it's the equivalent of going to Poundland for your biscuits as opposed to going to Marks and Spencer's, right? Even if you went to Marks and Spencer's and you looked in the whoop section, it's still better than going to Poundland, right? Well, you know what I'm trying to say. But anyway, that basically, the gap between supporter hunger and boardroom calculation is a real battle for Leeds this season, because unless they have the supporters behind them, which of course they always will do, but if the supporters kind of think that the board and the owners have no ambition, the ambition that we were promised and we actually thought they did have, well, you know, they're going to lose a room pretty quickly. Anyway, that's my Leeds rant for another week. Alrighty, let's have a quick look at the rest of the big summer movers then. Go over them, the summer transfer buzz. We've got Liverpool smashing records for Wirtz and Isak. We've got Man City signing Donnarumma from PSG. I love that guy. What a goalkeeper. What a like a boon that is for them, right? I remember watching him play for Italy in the World Cup. I think it was the one before last. He was superb. Not really sure how he's got on at PSG. Can't comment on that, but it sounds like a good signing to me. Spurs added Xavi Simons and Mohamed Kudus in their new Frank-led post-Daniel Levy rebuild/era. Arsenal, of course, landed Victor Gyökeres from Sporting. Man United brought in Brian Mbeumo, however you say it, from Brentford. But they're sweating injuries, they are. Yeah. Diogo Dalot pulled out the Portugal duty with a muscle discomfort. And I think Mason Mount and a couple of the others I've got a few other niggles, so we'll see how that plays out in coming weeks. And yes, Luis Diaz is at Bayern, Darwin Núñez is at Al Hilal. Confirmed exits that freed Liverpool to reshape. And that's about it, right? No fixtures this weekend, but plenty to chew on. Daniel Levy out at Spurs, Liverpool loading up with Isak and Wirtz, and Leeds fans tearing strips off the board after a flat summer window. Next Friday, I'm going to be back with fixture forecasts for a full Premier League slate, and we'll see if Leeds have found any goals, or can find any goals, should I say, after that awful 0-0 draw at Elland Road against Newcastle. What a dreadful, boring, awful match that was. And let's see if Spurs look any different post-Levy and how those record Liverpool signings are bedding in. Listen, until then, enjoy the internationals, take a breath, and get ready for the league to roar back.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.